President Trump has formally designated several Latin American cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, including two of Mexico's top drug trafficking organizations, the Sinaloa Cartel and the Jalisco New Generation. In response, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum said the new designation, in part, quote, cannot be an opportunity for the U.S. to invade our sovereignty. And here to talk to us more about this and what it may mean for the church in Mexico is Jason Poblete, president of the Global Liberty Alliance. Jason, always good to see you, my friend. So what do you think of this designation? Do you think it was a good move by the Trump administration?
Thank you, Tracy, as always. And yes, I do think it was a much needed move, bringing our policy into the 21st century. Last time I was on your show, I remember we were talking on this topic. We were chatting about how several bishops in Mexico had reportedly been involved in trying to mediate and de-escalate some of the cartel violence. And I said then and I say now, it's always good to keep the church out of these things. They can be an important interlocutor in certain respects. But from the U.S. standpoint, this is something long coming. And I was very glad to see it because it's ultimately putting our policy in the right posture. I understand where the president of Mexico is coming from, but ultimately they have failed to secure Mexico. And right now, just today, one of the leaders of one of these transnational terrorist organizations from federal prison in New York, up in the United States, threatened the Mexican president, saying, if you don't get me out of here, Mexico is going to collapse. And those are his words, because they're flexing. These people do not operate like a criminal cartel. They operate like transnational terrorist organizations.
Yeah, and Jason, let's talk about that. I mean, it was almost exactly a year ago that we talked about the bishops that were trying to come to this sort of peace agreement with the cartels. For folks who maybe didn't see that, may not know about this, tell us a little bit more the threat that the cartels pose to the church.
I mean, ultimately, the church is in a really difficult situation. I mean, most Americans that follow news or global politics know about Hamas, they know about Hezbollah, these Middle Eastern terrorist groups. But these organizations pretty much, and some experts may disagree with me on this, control Mexico in many sections. You cannot do business in Mexico. You cannot do certain things in Mexico, such as at the very grassroots, operate a family store in some of these regions of the country, because these criminal organizations control them. And that's what's so important about what this designation has done, is that it's going to help Americans and U.S. financial institutions and others give us more tools to combat some of this and help Mexico. For the church, of course, this puts them in a more precarious situation. I think the church in Mexico cannot afford to be taking sides because they don't have guns, right? The state ultimately is the one that will be called in to support attacks on the church. So they have to straddle a very, very fine line. So this is a challenging time for the Mexican Catholics, but ultimately America and Mexico need to stand together, work to eradicate these cartels. These people are impacting us here with fentanyl, with human smuggling, and with legitimate businesses. There's a big supply chain, global supply chain issue here that they have managed to penetrate almost every single state along the U.S.-Mexico border, down the eastern seaboard, all the way up to New York and Maine and beyond. So this is going to be a complex process. It's going to take a long time. And for Catholics in Mexico, especially the bishops who are in the middle of some of this, they could be helpful in helping de-escalate some of this, but ultimately this is up to civil authorities to resolve.
Yeah, and I think we all agree something has to be done about this. Jason, thank you so much for coming on and for your insights as always. We appreciate it. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you for having us. God bless you.